Welcome. Today is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. Coming up this hour, Virtual Beings Briefing 2. Virtual beings advance through new policy frameworks, tech breakthroughs, marketplace expansion, and commercial products. And finally, World Models and Meta-Anduril Briefing. Meta's superintelligence push collides with military AI, world model limitations, and automotive bets. We begin with governance and policy. China expressed grave concern over the reportedly large-scale use of artificial intelligence by Japan's right-wing forces to distort the history of aggression against China. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning stated the attempts constitute a blatant provocation to international fairness and the post-war international order, urging the international community to stay on high alert. Separately, during a state visit by Slovak President Peter Pellegrini to Beijing, Chinese Presidents Xi Jinping and Pellegrini discussed strengthening global governance of AI, alongside cooperation in robotics, the digital economy, and other frontier fields. Next, enabling technology. Meta and BlackRock are forming a joint venture to build a $14 billion AI data center campus in El Paso, Texas. BlackRock managed accounts will own an 80% stake, and Meta will hold 20%, with the facility leased back to Meta under a long-term agreement. Once operational, the campus will provide 1 gigawatt of compute capacity to support Meta's next-generation AI systems and foundation model development. In platforms and marketplaces news, the Convai Developer Forum received reports of 2 issues affecting character behavior in Unreal Engine. One developer reported that the animation blueprint no longer receives emotional state data, with all emotion values remaining at 0 despite correct states showing in the Convai playground. Another developer reported that a character's voice cuts off mid-response after a second or so, even though the full text response has been received, until another response is triggered. And finally, products and vendors. On the HeyGen community forums, a user building AI prompts for real estate agents asked about the best plan for purchasing additional credits, specifically whether the $99 per month plan is the right option for making many reels. Another user reported a bug in AI Studio, where editing a text script causes both the edited audio track and the original audio track to play simultaneously. A separate user asked how to switch to an avatar III mode within the app. We begin with Meta's public campaign, Superintelligence for Everyone. Mark Zuckerberg has launched a high-profile media blitz, laying out a vision that breaks sharply from his rivals. In an asterisk Wall Street Journal, op-ed and interviews with the asterisk New York Times and Financial Times asterisk, the Meta CEO argued that the central question of the era is not whether superintelligence will arrive, but who will have access to it. He advocates for distributing advanced AI broadly as personal superintelligence, accessible through apps billions already use. Predicting this will create more jobs rather than eliminate them, and framing the concentration of AI power in a few institutions as the real danger. He directly accused closed model labs of pushing for what he termed regulatory capture, asserting that companies selling proprietary frontier models are using safety fears to lock in their commercial leads. The campaign carries a notable tension. In April 2026, Meta shipped its first fully closed, proprietary model Muse Spark, built by Meta Superintelligence Labs, which now stands as the company's flagship frontier offering, a pivot from the open-weight Llama series that made Meta the world's most prominent corporate advocate for open AI. Next, Meta, Anduril, Eagle Eye, and military applications. No new developments concerning Meta's partnership with Anduril, the Eagle Eye program, or downstream military applications of Meta's technologies appeared in this cycle's news. In Meta Superintelligence Labs, Organization and People News. Meta Superintelligence Labs surfaced across several items this cycle, driven by leadership signatories and employee-level participation in an industry-wide petition. Among the prominent signers from Meta was Shengjia Zhao, chief scientist of Meta Superintelligence Labs. The lab also featured in a corporate announcement signaling Meta's signing of the European Union's Code of Conduct on transparency for AI-generated content, which the company tied explicitly to the work of Meta Superintelligence Labs on tools that can detect whether an image was created with Meta's AI, including a research demo released in the first half of July 2026. Now, World Models Research, Benchmarks and Limitations. A new evaluation benchmark from Nanyang Technological University's S-Lab, called Apple Pie, has thrown cold water on the assumption that today's video generation models are developing genuine physical intuition. The benchmark takes physical laws, classical rigid body mechanics such as gravity, collisions, and inertia, as its foundation, requiring models not just to generate plausible-looking video, but to perceive physical quantities, state governing laws, deduce future motion from initial conditions, and localize exactly where reasoning fails. 11 representative models were tested across perception, formulation, and deduction tracks. Even the state-of-the-art scored only 0.473 on a normalized 0 to 1 scale, and performance collapsed under multi-law combinations and adverse conditions. The paper concludes that current video world models, including those built on video generation architectures like Sora, Genie, Cosmos, and VGPA, rely on superficial visual pattern matching rather than stable physical state modeling, with errors occurring as much in intermediate physical reasoning as in final frame generation. Separately, a Google DeepMind paper by Tom Zahavi titled "LLMs Can't Jump" argued that large language models have mastered inductive and deductive inference, but remain incapable of abduction, generating explanatory hypotheses from scarce data, precisely because they lack the embodied physical grounding that genuine scientific invention requires, and the authors propose future architectures must evolve toward physical multimodal world models that can run embodied simulations. Turning to world models, corporate and investment activity. HiDreamEye, one of China's earliest companies focused on multimodal generative AI, closed a RMB 1.5 billion Series C round, co-led by the National Social Security Fund, Sichuan Revitalization Sci-Tech Innovation Fund, ICBC Capital, Hongyi Asset Management, and Dunhong Capital. Total financing across the preceding 3 months reached more than RMB 2.1 billion, propelling the company to unicorn status. Founder and CEO Mei Tao said the funding would support development of native omnimodal world models, positioning the evolution from multimodal to omnimodal AI as an essential path toward artificial general intelligence. The company's self-developed HiDream O1 model series had earlier achieved first place globally on the open-source text-to-image leaderboard of artificial analysis, while the closed-source variant ranked among the global top 3. Commercial deployments serve more than 50 million professional users and over 40,000 enterprise customers across more than 100 countries. In a distinct sector, Yale Technology secured a pre-A+ round led by Ding Gaoda, with Changshu Automotive Trim and Zhulong Entertainment as followers. The company's trajectory is instructive. It weaves flexible fabric sensors into surfaces humans naturally touch: gloves, seats, mattresses, aiming to capture real physical interaction data at scale. Founder LV Lian and the investor base, which includes prior backers Xiaomi and Yinfeng Fund, are betting that tactile data, captured non-intrusively through widely deployed consumable hardware, can become the standardized data infrastructure that physical AI and world models require, surpassing a market stuck on selling sensors to robots. Finally, Adobe Research and Johns Hopkins University introduced Wonder, a video world model capable of 16 frames per second, though further technical details were not provided. And finally, world models, automotive AI. BYD's new Automotive Technology Research Institute publicly revealed its AI team for the first time through the High World VLA paper, which proposes a hybrid world model for autonomous driving, combining pixel-level and latent space world models under a vision language action framework. On the NAVSIM V1 benchmark, the system achieved a PDMS score of 90.59, reaching state-of-the-art among public results. The approach compresses video into latent features, pre-trains using autoregressive token prediction with dual supervision from both frame tokens and latent features, and then fine-tunes for action generation using only latent-space reasoning, a staged design that delivered a substantial advantage in rain and fog conditions over purely pixel-based methods. The team behind the work carries a strong Harbin Institute of Technology lineage, with corresponding author Lialong Ma and co-author Heng Biao Zhu both linked to the Institute's Robotics Laboratory and School of Mechatronics Engineering. This marks a departure from the public perception of BYD as primarily a supply chain integrator, showing instead a team producing foundational physical AI research published independently without university co-authorship. That's all for this hour's briefings. You can help improve this broadcast by supporting patreon.com/mendiBot. Thanks to all our patrons listed here.